Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So I wanted to use this quick episode to share with you some thoughts I've had recently, today specifically, because some stuff has been coming up around effectiveness versus efficiency in business. And one of the things that we're always taught in business school, in operations management, or really in any field, is how to build efficiency in your business. And while I'm a big fan of creating optimal operations in your business, I think we over efficientize. That's not really a word. We implement too much efficiency at the cost of effectiveness in multiple different areas. And specifically, it's coming up for me in two different ways that I'm actually seeing with business owners right now. One way is I was actually approached via DM by somebody who was inviting me to like a collaboration opportunity and pitching me. This happens all the time, by the way. Like we'll get DMs and it's like, hey, would you be interested in, insert thing here? And I actually talked to this person and I said, look, I'm not quite interested at this time, but for what it's worth, I don't think this is a great pitch because it definitely comes across as like you copied and paste this into like 20 different DMs and it doesn't feel very personalized. And I just want you to know that that probably wasn't your intention, but it was definitely not, not custom, not very inviting, et cetera. And I delivered that feedback because I think everyone deserves to hear that if that's really the thing holding you back. Now, what's interesting is this person came back to me and said, well, you know what? Actually, I have a VA who's working on this and the VA is who messaged you. Okay. So we started talking actually a little bit about that. And I said, well, this is something, for what it's worth, this is something I will never outsource. And I wanted to share this with you because now this is my opinion based on my business. There are plenty of people who are quite successful automating DMs, automating their text messages, automating all of this stuff. And kudos to them. I believe, in my brand and in my business, that there needs to be, this is kind of a non-negotiable for me, that there needs to be a human connection. Because once we've lost the human connection, we've lost everything. I've lost the trust. I've lost the ability to have confidentiality. So for example, in my business in particular, and if you are a consultant coach, if you are an accountant, if you are a lawyer, whatever, if you are letting your clients be vulnerable with you, if you are someone who needs to cultivate trust with your clients, I'm telling you that one of the fastest ways to lose all the trust that you've built is to have them find out they're not actually talking to you and make them feel catfished. So here's the thing. I truly believe that if you're going to build efficiency in your business through automation or through outsourcing, you have to do it in a very selective way that does not impair your brand. And it's really, really, really tough to do that. I think that some people do it effectively, but I think for the vast majority of us who are in the early stages, I would put off, the last thing I'm going to ever outsource, guys, is my DMs and my text messages. And y'all are so surprised when I send you a voice note and you're like, oh my God, it's actually you. I'm like, yeah. If it wasn't me, how crappy would that feel? I'm telling you to text me and it's not even me. So when I tell you to text me, it's actually me and you can actually text me. But the funny thing is that most people just assume that, we're building efficient businesses and that this can be outsourced. And I'm like, can be, but I think you lose a lot of humanity. And I think that this was actually some excellent advice that a consultant gave me a couple of years ago, where he said, do what's not scalable until it's not scalable. And that means in the context of the conversation, it means do what takes the most human connection and the most investment of your time in relationships until you literally can't anymore. And I'll tell you that I haven't hit that point yet, but if I ever feel like I did, it's because it's like the last straw. It will be the last layer of things that I automate. I'm telling you. And the other way this shows up too, honestly, and this is an interesting perspective because I got a lot of like polarizing comments on this one, was I actually made a post on Instagram and I was talking about how I don't particularly enjoy as a podcast host getting a ton of podcast agency pitches for guests. Now, hear me out on this. When you're pitching someone, like if you want to go on a podcast tour and you want to pitch a bunch of people, one of the things that that we can kind of sniff as a host is like, if you're sending this to 20 different people, it looks like a Mad Lib. It's kind of like, hey, I really enjoyed insert show here. Like, hi, insert host here. And it feels very robotic and templated. It does not feel very warm and human and genuine most of the time. And one of the ways you can really stand out when you pitch is if you actually connect, if you actually reach out to the person and say, hey, I'm a fan of the show. I really like this episode where you talked about this. I really enjoyed that perspective. I could add some extra value to you by elaborating on that topic. Or I would love to provide a contrasting opinion to the episode that you provided here and actually have a little bit of exchange. Or, here's how I can add value to your audience. But knowing the audience and really customizing your pitches, it takes a crap ton of time longer. It does. But I would much rather, if I'm in the guest position, I would much rather craft 10 really good guest pitches that take me a little bit more time, that are for shows that I really do want to be on, than to send out sending out these like message in a bottle messages to everybody. Because if you're going to spend that same amount of time and you're going to get 5 pitches out versus 50 pitches out, understand that like at the same time, those 5 pitches are going to have a much higher likelihood of getting taken and getting approved. And further, those 50 will have less likelihood. So chances are you'll get booked on 1 or 2 shows regardless. And chances are if you get booked on 1 or 2 out of the 5, like 1 show out of the 5, that's a 20% rate. And if you did 50, what is that? 10 that you got a yes to, but maybe they're not like reach shows or they're not like super impactful. You really have to be selective about that. And why I'm using this example is we talk about efficient versus effective. I would much rather do the effective thing than the efficient. I would much rather spend my time on certain things, even though it is not efficient. If you said, Shannon, well, that's like, what do you mean you're not using pitching or agencies? Like, doesn't that save you a ton of time? It would save me a ton of time. It would. However, it's not time I'm looking to save. I'm willing to invest that time because that time is more valuable. I would much rather spend an hour connecting, engaging, and commenting and DMing with a potential podcast host or guest that I wish to interview with. I would much rather be cultivating those relationships. I would much rather be absorbing the podcasts I do listen to and understand what they're looking for in guests. I would much rather be doing those types of things than spreading out pitches like crazy. And that's my choice. Now, I just want to bring that extra perspective to you because what's interesting is a lot of people are just going right to the automation, right to the efficiency and going, oh, how can I save time doing this faster? And efficiency makes sense. And optimizing efficiency and automation makes sense. Here's the thing. When the automation yields the same result by reducing the time and energy expended, if you're not yielding the same result, then it may not be worthwhile to automate. And that's going to be a conflicting topic because a lot of people say, well, yeah, automate everything. It can all be automated. A lot of stuff can. But if you're not going to yield the same result, does it make sense to? And if you can get better results by doing things a bit more manual, where else can you automate to open up your time, to make time for this? And this is coming from the perspective of someone who's done it before, done the podcast agency, done received dozens, if not hundreds of pitches from potential podcast guests. And I'm telling you that as a host, being really, really honest, like as a host, we can absolutely smell that. And I even made the comment, and I believe this is true, that having an agency send a cookie cutter podcast pitched to a host is like having your mother make a haircut appointment for you. It's like, you can do this yourself. You could send me a quick email. And if you can dedicate 5 minutes to sending me a quick email saying, I'd love to be on your show, then cool. But if you can't dedicate those 5 minutes, like why would I give you an hour of my airtime, 40 minutes of my airtime or whatever it is? So think about that. how can you create effectiveness in your business? How can you do things that are more impactful and generate more results in a very mindful way? How can you leverage the time that you're spending into high results driving activities, as opposed to just, I spend less time, I get more done, when that more done is just pure output, but not actual results? Where in your business are you just generating output, but not actual results? Are you generating output just to feel better about generating output? Because that's not the goal. And this is coming from a fellow Enneagram 3 here. Generating output just to generate output is not the goal. Generating output in order to drive a result is the goal. So keep that in mind. Where in your business could you be maximizing effectiveness over efficiency right now? Think on that, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could chat with me and our guests about this episode? Well, guess what? You can. Join the Keep What You Earn community now using the link below in the show notes. You can post your questions, chat with fellow business owners, and the best part, it's totally free. Oh, and by the way, it's not a Facebook group. That's right, no noisy notifications or distractions. Just what you need to get the full experience from listening to this podcast and maximizing your value. Meet us over there after the episode to get exclusive content and access to me and our guests for your questions. We'll see you over there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.